The storm had ended, but the sky above the dead planet still looked angry. Dark red clouds moving like smoke from old fire. Commander Ryland stepped out of his ship, his boots sinking into black dust. The ground was covered with the remains of war, broken ships, burned metal, shattered helmets, and pieces of lives that had ended too soon. Ryland had seen many battlefields before, but this one was different. It was silent. Not even the wind wanted to move here. The scanners said the area was safe, but Ryland's gut told him otherwise. He had learned long ago that scanners could lie, but instincts rarely did. He was not here for glory or duty. Those days were over. Now he worked alone, scavenging dead planets for things worth selling. Old weapons, power cells, alien tech. Anything that could buy him another month of fuel and food. His helmet light flashed across the ruins of a large ship, half buried in the sand. The metal was strange, dark like glass, but it shimmered faintly. It wasn't human. Maybe a rare alien craft. That meant profit. He climbed the wreck's edge carefully, his suit clicking softly. Inside, the air was thin and cold. Burn marks ran across the walls, and the floor was covered in strange crystal dust. His eyes moved across broken panels and melted seats. He began scanning for energy signatures, hoping the ship's core might still hold a charge. Then something flickered on his visor, a weak biosign. Ryland frowned. That can't be right, he muttered to himself. Nothing alive should still be here. He followed the signal deeper inside, through a narrow passage where wires hung like vines. The air smelled faintly of metal and ash. His flashlight stopped on something that made his breath catch. It was a body. At first he thought it was just another dead alien, thin, small, wrapped in torn fabric. But then the scanner beeped again. Heartbeat detected, weak. He knelt beside her. It was a female form, barely alive. Her skin pale like moonlight, her face half covered by dirt. Her bones showed through her thin body as if she hadn't eaten in months. Her hair, if it could be called hair, shimmered faintly silver under the light. "Hey," Ryland said softly, though he knew she couldn't hear him. "You're still in there?" Her eyelids moved, and for a brief second her eyes opened. They weren't human eyes. They glowed faintly blue, like stars seen through water. She looked at him with fear, or maybe confusion, and then she whispered something. The words were soft, musical, in a language he didn't understand. Then she went still again. Ryland's first thought was to leave. This wasn't his problem. He didn't know what kind of creature she was. For all he knew, she could be dangerous. But something inside him, something he thought he had lost long ago and wouldn't let him walk away. He checked her vitals again. Weak pulse, low temperature. Her body was shutting down. "Damn it," he said quietly, opening a med pack. "You better not kill me for this." He lifted her gently, surprised by how light she was. She felt like a feather in his arms. He carried her out of the wreck and back toward his ship, every step sinking in the dust. The sky above flashed with distant lightning, but no thunder followed. It was like the planet itself was watching him. Inside his ship, he placed her on the med table and connected the scanners. His ship's AI, an old grumpy voice named Vega, spoke through the speakers. "Commander, unidentified life form detected. Not human. Possibly hostile? She's dying," Ryland replied. "Help me stabilize her." "Commander, this is unwise." "Just do it." Reluctantly, the AI activated the medical drones. They hummed and clicked as they worked over the girl's body, scanning, injecting, healing. The machines beeped warnings. Her biology was strange, not like anything in the records. Hours passed. Ryland sat by the med table, half asleep, watching her chest rise and fall faintly. Once or twice, her eyes opened, looking at him in silence before closing again. He noticed something else. Her wounds healed faster than expected. The broken skin was already smooth. Her breathing grew stronger. But what made his heart race was the faint glow that began to spread from under her skin. Soft, blue, like moonlight trapped beneath her flesh. "What are you?" he whispered. Vega's voice came again. "Commander, I recommend immediate isolation of the subject. This could be an unknown pathogen or energy entity." "She's not a threat," Ryland said. "She's scared. Scared things can still kill." He didn't answer. He just kept watching her. Suddenly, her body jerked. The machines beeped wildly. She gasped, eyes wide open now, glowing bright like twin suns. For a moment, the whole ship filled with strange light. and Rylan felt a pulse of energy rush through the air. Then it was gone. She fell back onto the table, breathing slow but steady. The light faded, leaving only silence and the hum of engines. Rylan stood there, heart pounding. He didn't know what he had just seen. He looked at her again, fragile, mysterious, and far from human. Something told him this was only the beginning, and he was right. The ship drifted quietly through the dark sea of stars. Commander Rylan sat alone in the cockpit, staring at the faint glow of a dying sun on the horizon. He hadn't slept much since the night he found her, the alien girl. In the medical bay behind him, she slept under the ship's pale lights. Her breathing was slow, her body still weak, but every hour she seemed a little less fragile, and a little more strange. Vega, the ship's AI, broke the silence. "Commander, you've kept her aboard for 3 days. She consumes power from the ship's main generator. Her body absorbs energy directly from electricity. That's not normal." Rylan sighed. "Yeah, well, nothing about her is normal." He took a sip of cold coffee. The taste was bitter, but it kept him awake. He thought about dumping her at the next outpost, maybe letting the scientists handle her, but every time he looked at her, something inside him stopped him. He told himself it was guilt, but deep down it wasn't. It was curiosity and something else he couldn't name. He stood and walked to the medbay door. The lights flickered softly as the automatic doors opened. The alien girl, the one he had started calling her. Since she had no name, it was awake. She sat up slowly, her long hair falling around her shoulders like silver threads. Her skin wasn't pale anymore. It had a faint glow, soft and alive, like warm metal under sunlight. When she saw him, she froze. Her eyes were wide, bright blue, and filled with fear. "It's okay," Rylan said gently, raising his hands. "You're safe. I won't hurt you." She tilted her head slightly, studying him like a child seeing something new. Then she pointed weakly at him. "Human?" she asked, her voice rough but musical. Rylan blinked. "Yeah, human, you understand me?" She nodded, slow and uncertain. "Human and saved me." He smiled a little. "Guess so." She looked around the room, then at the glowing walls. "Ship?" "Yes, my ship." Her eyes softened. She touched the bed where she lay, then her chest. "I live because of you." Rylan didn't know what to say. He had saved many people during the war, but this felt different. She wasn't like anyone he'd ever seen. "Do you have a name?" he asked. She frowned like she was thinking hard. "Name?" "Lyra," she finally whispered. "Lyra," Rylan repeated. "That's a nice name." She smiled faintly, but then her face darkened. "They will come." "Who?" Lyra's hands trembled. "Hunters. They find me, always." Rylan felt a chill crawl up his spine. "Hunters? What kind of hunters?" But she didn't answer. She looked down, breathing fast, eyes filled with something deeper than fear. Despair. Vega's voice cut in from the ceiling. "Commander, I'm detecting energy fluctuations near our sector. Unidentified ships following our trajectory." Rylan turned toward the cockpit. "Show me." The display lit up with radar signals. 3 red dots moving fast behind them. "Damn," he muttered. "You brought trouble with you, didn't you?" Lyra closed her eyes. "They want me power inside me." Rylan didn't understand, but the look on her face told him enough. These weren't rescuers. They were hunters, and they were coming for her. He rushed to the controls. "Vega, engage silent drive. Cut our trail." "Affirmative, Commander." The ship went dark as the engines switched to stealth mode. The stars outside blurred as they slipped into a cold, silent drift. Lyra appeared beside him, her movements light, almost floating. Rylan was surprised when she moved faster now, stronger than before. "What are you doing up?" he asked. She looked out the window at the stars. "They smell me. My kind and easy to find," Rylan frowned. "Your kind?" She didn't answer directly. Instead, she turned her face toward him. "You should leave me. You die if you stay." Rylan crossed his arms. "Not happening." Her eyes shimmered. "Why?" "You don't know me." "Because I already pulled you out of one wreck," he said simply. "I'm not letting you end up in another." For a moment, Lyra said nothing. Then she touched his arm. Her fingers were cold at first, then warm, almost electric. A wave of energy moved through his skin like a soft shock. He pulled back slightly, startled. What was that? Her eyes glowed brighter. "Your life. Feels strong. I needed to see it." Rylan didn't know whether to be scared or amazed. There was something powerful, and dangerous in her touch. The ship jolted suddenly. Vega's alarm blared. "Commander! The enemy ships have locked onto us. They're closing in!" Rylan's hands flew over the controls. "Hold on!" Outside, beams of red light sliced through the darkness. The ship shook violently. Lyra gripped the wall, her eyes burning with light. Rylan shouted, "Vega, full shields! Shields at 40%. Then everything happened at once. Lyra screamed, and a burst of light exploded from her body. The ship filled with blue fire, pure energy flowing through every panel and wire. One of the chasing ships disintegrated instantly, gone in a flash of light. Rylan stared in shock. Lyra collapsed to the floor, breathing hard, her skin flickering between light and shadow. Vega's voice was quiet now. "Commander, she's not just a survivor. She's a weapon." Rylan looked down at her, his heart racing. She was shaking, whispering something over and over. "Can't control it. They'll find us again." Rylan knelt beside her, his voice firm but gentle. "Then we'll be ready next time." Lyra looked at him, eyes glowing faintly in the dark. "You don't know what I am?" Rylan met her gaze. "No," he said softly, "but I'm about to find out." Outside, the stars burned quietly, watching, waiting, as the hunted girl and the stubborn human drifted deeper into the unknown. The galaxy was quiet that night, but quiet never meant safe. Commander Rylan sat in the pilot's chair, watching stars slide past like cold sparks. The air inside the ship felt heavy. Ever since the attack, he hadn't slept. Lyra was resting again, or at least pretending to. Her body had healed fast, but her mind seemed full of storms. Every time he looked at her, she seemed different, stronger, brighter, almost too perfect. Vega's voice broke the silence. "Commander, enemy ships were not destroyed completely. 2 vessels remain active. Their trajectory indicates pursuit." Rylan sighed. "Figures. We shake them off, they crawl back. Recommendation, eject the alien. They are tracking her signature, not the ship." He glared at the control screen. "Not happening. Then we are statistically doomed." "Story of my life," Rylan muttered, standing up. He walked to the medbay again. Lyra sat quietly near the viewing window, watching the passing starlight. Her silver hair glowed faintly. For a moment she looked peaceful, almost human. When she noticed him, she smiled. "You don't rest. Neither do you," Rylan replied. Lyra tilted her head. "Sleep brings memories. I don't like them." "What kind of memories?" Her eyes darkened. "Of my people. Of fire." She stood and walked closer to him. "My world is gone. Burned by them, the ones who hunt me now. They call themselves harvesters. They wanted what we are." "What are you?" Rylan asked softly. Lyra hesitated, as if afraid to answer. Then she whispered, "A Morphean." He frowned. "Never heard of that." "We can change," she said, her voice shaking. "Not just shape, but energy, matter, emotion. My kind could turn pain into power, love into light." Rylan felt his skin crawl. "That's why they want you, for your power." She nodded slowly. "They used us. Until we broke." The ship shuddered suddenly. Vega's alarm blared. "Commander!" Hostile vessels approaching fast, like 20,000 kilometers and closing. Rylan sprinted to the cockpit. The radar showed 2 red dots closing in fast. "Brace for impact," he shouted. The ship rocked violently as plasma beams cut through the void. Blue sparks flashed across the hull. Vega's voice was calm but sharp. "Shields at 50%. Lyra entered, her eyes glowing again. "Let me help." Rylan shook his head. "Last time you did that, you almost blew up my ship." She stepped closer. "You can't outrun them." "Let me try." Rylan hesitated, then nodded once. "Fine, just don't die on me." Lyra placed her hands on the ship's control board. Light spread under her fingers, running through the wires like living veins. The entire cabin filled with a low hum, a heartbeat made of energy. Rylan watched the radar. The 2 enemy ships were getting closer, their weapons charging. Then Lyra's eyes flared gold. The ship around them seemed to vanish, folding, bending, disappearing into a glowing mist. For a heartbeat, Rylan thought they had died. Then he realized they had moved. The stars outside were different. They were thousands of light years away from where they'd been. He stared at her. "You teleported us?" Lyra fell to her knees, panting. Not far. Enough. The radar flickered, and to his horror, the red dots returned. They followed us through hyperspace, he whispered. Lyra looked at him, her voice weak but calm. They can smell my energy. They won't stop. Rylan clenched his fists. Then we fight. He turned to Vega. Arm the cannons. Commander, we lack sufficient firepower. Just do it. The guns roared to life. Rylan fired at the lead ship, his aim steady. Explosions lit the darkness, but the harvesters didn't slow down. They returned fire, beams slicing across the sky. The ship spun out of control, alarms screaming. Sparks rained from the ceiling. Rylan grabbed the controls, trying to stabilize the descent. Lyra, can you... Before he finished, she stood again, eyes blazing white. Her body lifted slightly off the floor, glowing like a small sun. I can stop them, she whispered. Don't, Rylan shouted. You'll kill yourself. But she was already gone, her form blurring into light. The air around her rippled. Through the cockpit window, Rylan saw something impossible. Lyra outside the ship. Floating in space without a suit, she raised her hands, and the stars answered. A beam of pure blue energy exploded from her body, tearing through the first harvester ship. It vanished in silence. The second turned to flee, but Lyra's light reached it too, and it crumbled like dust. Then the glow faded. Rylan's ship drifted quietly, alone again. Lyra, he shouted, rushing to the window. For a moment there was nothing, only the cold emptiness of space. Then faintly he saw her falling back toward the ship, unconscious. He raced to the airlock, pulling her inside. Her body was limp, her skin cold, but she was alive, barely. He carried her to the med table again, heart pounding. Vega's voice was softer now. Commander, you cannot keep this up. She will destroy herself, and you, if this continues. Rylan didn't answer. He brushed a strand of silver hair from Lyra's face. She saved us, he said quietly. That's all that matters. Her eyes opened weakly, glowing dimly. They'll come again. Stronger. Rylan looked out at the stars. 1,000,000 silent witnesses to their battle. Then we'll be ready for them, he said. She smiled faintly before her eyes closed again. The light faded from her skin, leaving only a quiet hum in the air. Rylan sat beside her, his mind spinning. He had seen her power, and now he understood why the galaxy wanted her. But what scared him most wasn't her strength. It was how much he already cared about her. The ship floated through a calm stretch of space, drifting near the light of a dying star. Inside, silence ruled, except for the low hum of machines keeping the alien girl alive. Commander Rylan sat beside her, elbows on his knees, eyes heavy with exhaustion. It had been 3 days since the last battle. The ship still carried burn marks from enemy fire, and the engines worked at half power. But somehow they were both alive. Lyra hadn't spoken much since then. Her body had gone through strange changes, skin glowing brighter, hair almost liquid silver, and eyes that no longer looked human. She was becoming something else. Vega's voice echoed softly from the ceiling. Commander, her energy levels continue to rise. It's unnatural. She's generating more power than the ship itself. Rylan rubbed his forehead. Yeah, I noticed. The lights flicker every time she breathes. She's evolving, Commander. You should... Don't say it, Rylan interrupted. I'm not throwing her out. Then you'd better be ready for what comes next. He stood and looked at her. Lyra was sleeping, if you could call it that. Her chest rose and fell in a slow rhythm, but soft threads of light moved under her skin like rivers. It was both beautiful and terrifying. Suddenly her fingers twitched. Then her eyes opened. Rylan stepped closer. Hey, you're awake. She turned her head toward him, her eyes now golden instead of blue. The glow made the room brighter. Her voice came out soft, distant. Something inside me? Changing. I can see that, he said with a small smile. You're lighting up half the ship. She didn't smile back. Instead, she sat up, gripping the edge of the table. It's not safe. What do you mean? Lyra looked down at her hands. My kind were made, not born. We were created to adapt, to survive. But when our power grows too strong, it consumes us. Rylan frowned. You mean it'll kill you? She nodded slowly. Or worse, it could spread. The energy inside me can't be controlled if I lose focus. That's why they hunted us when we were dangerous even to ourselves. Rylan crossed his arms. So you want to just give up? You already saved both of us twice. I'm not letting you die now. Her golden eyes met his. You care too much, human. Someone has to, he said quietly. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then she smiled faintly. Your emotions, they feed me. That's why I'm changing faster. Rylan blinked. Wait, what? Lyra nodded. I don't eat like you do. I absorb energy from emotion, mostly warmth, kindness. Love. He took a step back, stunned. So I'm powering you? Yes, she said softly. Without meaning to. But it's dangerous. If I take too much, you'll fade. Your life will burn out, Rylan chuckled bitterly. Guess I've had worse relationships. Lyra tilted her head, confused by the joke, and he smiled despite the fear twisting in his chest. Suddenly, alarms blared through the ship. Commander, Vega's voice snapped. A harvester signal detected. One vessel, large, heavily armed, closing fast. Rylan rushed to the cockpit. Can we jump? Negative. Engine still unstable. He looked out the window. A massive ship loomed in the distance, black and sharp like a blade against the stars. Lyra appeared beside him. They found me again. Then we fight again. She shook her head. No, this one won't stop. It's their leader. Rylan grabbed his blaster and checked the settings. Good, I was hoping for a challenge. But Lyra reached out and touched his arm. Rylan, you can't win this fight with weapons. Her touch was warm, almost burning. Her eyes glowed brighter and her voice changed. Deeper, stronger, filled with energy. I can end it. But I must change completely. What does that mean? It means I won't be the same after, she whispered. Maybe not even me anymore. Rylan looked at her, his throat tight. Lyra, she placed her hand on his chest. Promise me something. Don't fear me? Whatever happens, I don't fear you, he said, voice low. Never will. She smiled sadly. Then you're already lost. Before he could reply, she closed her eyes. Light burst from her body, spreading through the ship. The air vibrated. Vega shouted warnings, but Rylan couldn't move. He could only watch as Lyra's body lifted off the floor, her form shifting. Her skin now translucent, her hair like threads of energy. Outside, the harvester ship fired. Beams of plasma struck their hull, but each impact turned to harmless light before touching them. Lyra opened her eyes. Pure white now. I see them, she whispered. Every life on that ship. Every thought. Every fear. Then she raised her hands and the void exploded with golden light. The enemy ship disintegrated, not in fire, but in silence. Gone like it had never existed. When the light faded, Lyra collapsed into Rylan's arms. Her glow dimmed, her body trembling. Lyra, stay with me, he shouted. She looked up weakly. You see now what I am? He nodded, holding her tighter. I see someone worth saving. Her lips curved into a faint smile. You shouldn't have said that. Now I'll never let you go. Her hand touched his chest again, and for a moment, Rylan felt her heartbeat inside his own. Two rhythms becoming one. Then she went still. Rylan looked down at her glowing form, heart pounding. He didn't know if she was alive or something beyond it. But one thing was certain. Lyra wasn't just a survivor anymore. She was becoming something the galaxy had never seen before. Silence filled the ship after the battle. The enemy was gone, but the echo of destruction still hung in the air. Rylan stood near the cockpit window, staring into the endless black of space. His hands were still shaking. He had seen ships vanish before, but never like that, not turned into light and silence. Behind him in the medical bay, Lyra rested again. If she could even be called Lyra anymore. Her glow had changed. It was softer now, warmer. She looked almost human, almost. But the air around her shimmered faintly, like heat waves from an invisible fire. Every few seconds, the lights in the ship dimmed and brightened again, as if her heartbeat had taken control of the entire vessel. Rylan walked closer, his boots soft on the metal floor. He stopped beside her bed, looking down at her face. For the first time since he found her, she looked peaceful, almost fragile. You're burning yourself out, he said quietly. Her eyes opened slowly, golden and deep. You keep worrying, human. I'm getting used to it, Rylan replied with a faint smile. Lyra sat up, her movements graceful and slow. Her skin shimmered faintly, reflecting the room's light. She looked both alive and unreal, like a dream given form. You saved me, she said. Again. I think we're even now, Rylan said. You've saved me twice over. She tilted her head slightly, studying him. You risked your life for me. You should have let me die. Not really my style. Lyra smiled softly, and for a moment Rylan forgot to breathe. There was something magnetic about her now, something that pulled him in without a word. He stepped back a little, forcing his eyes away. So what now? You destroyed their leader? Maybe that's the end of it. Lyra shook her head slowly. No, the harvesters never stop. They don't follow one leader. They follow hunger, Rylan frowned. Then we'll keep running. You'll die if you stay with me. Then I'll die. She stared at him, shocked by his calm voice. You say that like it means nothing. He met her eyes. It means everything. That's why it's worth it. The silence that followed was heavy. Lyra's eyes softened, glowing brighter as if emotion made her light stronger. Then suddenly the ship trembled. Not from attack, but from her. Rylan looked around. What's happening? Lyra clutched her chest, breathing hard. It's starting again. The change. I can't stop it. Light spread across her skin like liquid gold. Her body trembled, and the energy reading spiked across the console. Vega's voice echoed sharply. Commander, her energy levels are critical. She's drawing from the ship's core. Shut it down, Rylan shouted. Impossible. She's pulling directly through your neural link. What link? He snapped, then froze. He remembered her touch. When she had saved him, when she'd placed her hand on his chest. The heartbeat he'd felt that wasn't his. Rylan, Lyra gasped. It's me. I'm taking from you. He stepped forward. Then stop. She shook her head. I can't. The bond is too deep. You gave part of yourself to me when I healed you. He knelt beside her, his hand brushing her arm. Then take what you need. Her eyes widened in disbelief. You'll die. Better me than you, he said firmly. Lyra stared at him, then grabbed his hand. The moment their skin touched, light exploded. The air rippled with heat and soundless thunder. Rylan felt a rush of emotion, fear, joy, sorrow, love, all at once. He saw flashes in his mind, her memories, her world burning, her people screaming, 1,000 suns exploding. Then peace, a child's laughter, a field of silver trees, a voice whispering her name. He gasped, falling back. His heart raced wildly, his vision blurry. Lyra's voice trembled. I see you. Everything you are. So much pain, he could barely breathe. Stay out of my head, she smiled faintly. I can't, we're one now. The light faded slowly. Rylan's hand shook. His heartbeat was slow but steady. Lyra knelt before him, eyes glowing softly. I took what I needed, she said quietly. But you gave more than I asked. He looked up at her. You're alive. That's all that matters. Lyra touched his face gently. You fool. You don't know what you've done. Then tell me. She looked down, her voice barely a whisper. You're changing too. The energy inside me. It's inside you now, he froze. What? It will grow like a seed. You'll feel it soon. Rylan stood unsteady. You could have warned me first. Lyra smiled sadly. Would you have stopped me? He didn't answer. He couldn't. She stepped closer, her hand resting on his chest again. This time not to drain, but to feel. Your heart. It beats like mine now. Her golden light filled the room, wrapping around them both. Rylan didn't pull away. For the first time, he didn't feel fear. Only warmth, a deep, dangerous warmth. The ship hummed quietly, as if listening. Lyra whispered, We're connected now, Rylan. Whatever happens next, we face it together. Outside, the stars watched in silence. Two lives, once separate, now bound by something neither could control. Desire, energy, and fate itself. And somewhere in the dark distance, the void stirred again. The harvesters had felt the pulse of new power. They would come. But this time, they wouldn't be facing just the last Morphean. They would be facing both of them. Stars drifted outside like tiny sparks of ice, and the ship glided through them, silent and slow. Inside, Rylan stood before the mirror in the small cabin, staring at eyes that no longer looked like his own. They glowed faintly gold, not bright, not burning, but alive, like something inside him had woken and refused to go back to sleep. He splashed water on his face, breathing hard. Just stress, he muttered. No sleep, no food, too much adrenaline. That's all. But deep inside, he knew it wasn't stress. He could feel her, Lyra, somewhere in his mind like a soft whisper under every thought. Rylan. The voice came again, gentle but clear, echoing in his skull. He looked toward the med bay. Lyra? No answer. Just that strange warmth in his chest again, pulsing with her heartbeat. He left the cabin and found her standing near the window, wrapped in a blanket, eyes fixed on the stars. Her skin glowed softly, painting the room in gold. You're awake, he said. She turned slowly, her smile faint. I never sleep anymore. Not like before. He walked closer. You've been quiet since it happened. I can hear everything now, she whispered. Your thoughts. The hum of the ship. Even the starlight. It sings, Rylan frowned. That doesn't sound peaceful. She looked at him sadly. It's not. It's like being everywhere and nowhere at once. He wanted to say something comforting, but she stepped closer. So close he could feel the warmth of her light on his skin. You're changing, she said. I can feel it. My energy is inside you, growing stronger. He looked down at his hands. They shook slightly, faint trails of golden light flickering under his skin. Yeah, I noticed. It will spread, Lyra said softly. You'll become something between human and Morphean. Half of both and neither fully. And if I fight it, he asked, you'll die. He chuckled, but it was hollow. Guess that makes the choice simple. Lyra frowned. You joke because you're afraid. Maybe, he said. But it beats screaming. She reached up and touched his cheek gently. Her hand was warm, soft but filled with power. You could still turn back, she said. I could take the energy from you, drain it. You'd live human again. Rylan shook his head. Not without you. For a long moment they stood in silence. Only the hum of the ship filled the space between them. Then Vega's voice broke through the peace, cold and sharp. Commander, long-range sensors detect multiple incoming ships. At least 6 signatures, Harvester design. Estimated time to contact, 20 minutes. Rylan turned toward the controls. They're faster than before. Lyra's golden eyes darkened. They're coming for us both now. You're part of me, they'll sense your energy too. Then we fight together, Rylan said. But Lyra didn't move. If I use my full power again, there might be nothing left. Not of me, or of you. Rylan stepped closer. Then we use it carefully. We're not dying here. Lyra hesitated, then nodded slowly. If we merge again fully, we could stop them. But once joined, it can't be undone. Rylan didn't even blink. Do it, she stared into his eyes. You don't understand what that means. I don't care. We end this or we die trying. Lyra took a deep breath. Then come to me. She placed her hands on his chest. The golden light between them flared bright. The air thickened, heavy with heat and sound. Rylan felt his heart slam against his ribs. Then another heartbeat joined his in perfect rhythm. He gasped as energy flowed through him, fire and lightning rushing into every vein. He saw flashes, Lyra's memories again, but this time mixed with his own. His childhood on Mars colony, the war. The faces of people he'd lost, and through it all her voice, don't fight me. Just breathe. The light filled the ship, flooding every corridor, every wire. Vega's voice flickered. Warning. Power levels exceeding capacity. System instability, danger so, then silence. When the light faded, Rylan was kneeling on the floor, gasping. Lyra stood before him. Or maybe it wasn't just Lyra anymore. Her form shimmered between human and something vast, almost cosmic. Her eyes blazed white. Rylan? She said softly. He looked up. His own eyes were glowing now, gold and blue mixing into fire. I hear you, he said. In my head everywhere, she smiled faintly. Then it worked. Outside, 6 harvester ships appeared, forming a deadly wall of steel and light. Rylan stood beside her. His fear was gone. His body felt weightless, electric. The universe itself seemed to hum around him. Lyra looked at him. You're not human anymore, he smiled. Guess neither are you. She reached for his hand. Then let's show them what we've become. The harvesters opened fire, beams of red plasma cutting through space. Rylan and Lyra raised their hands together. The beams dissolved before reaching them, melting into rivers of gold light. The ship trembled, not from impact, but from the energy surging outward. Rylan felt power explode inside him, but it wasn't pain anymore. It was freedom. It was creation, Lyra's voice whispered beside him. Now you understand. We're not running anymore, he nodded. No, we're done running. Their combined light burst outward, a wave of golden fire that swallowed the harvester fleet in seconds. The ships vanished, turning to dust and silence. When the glow faded, only darkness and stars remained. Rylan looked at Lyra, her face peaceful, her eyes soft again. "What are we now?" he asked quietly. She smiled. "Awake." Outside, the stars seemed to move closer. Bowing to the new light born between them, the hunter and the hunted were gone. In their place stood something the galaxy had never seen. Two souls bound by love, fire and power that could remake worlds. The stars were quiet after the war. No engines, no screams, no pursuit, only silence, and two lights drifting through the endless dark. Rylan stood by the cockpit window, watching the universe ripple in slow motion. The stars looked closer now, brighter, as if they were breathing with him. Every heartbeat sent a faint pulse through space. And somewhere beside him, Lyra's heartbeat answered in perfect rhythm. He no longer felt human. Not completely. His body moved differently. His senses stretched beyond flesh and bone. He could feel the hum of energy in every atom around him, the life of planets far away, the whispers of stars burning light years distant. Lyra walked toward him, her bare feet silent on the metallic floor. Her glow had changed again, not blinding anymore, soft, warm, alive. She looked less like a weapon and more like something divine. "You're quiet," she said softly. He smiled faintly, still getting used to feeling the universe inside my head. Lyra tilted her head. "You see it now, don't you? The way everything connects. Every sound, every star, every thought." Rylan nodded. "It's beautiful. And terrifying," she smiled gently. "It always is." They stood together, watching the nebula stretch across the dark, clouds of blue and gold dust glowing faintly like an ocean in motion. "You did it," Rylan said finally. "You stopped them." Lyra shook her head. "We stopped them." He looked at her, really looked. There was no fear left in her eyes now. "Only peace, so what now?" he asked. "Where do we go when the whole galaxy thinks we're monsters?" She turned toward the stars, her voice quiet but steady. "We don't go anywhere. We become the place others run to." Rylan frowned. "What do you mean?" "My people are gone," Lyra said. "Yours are dying. Every world we've seen is falling into war, greed, hunger. But we can bring balance again. Light, warmth, life. You're talking about playing gods." Lyra looked back at him. "Maybe gods are just those who finally stop running." He chuckled softly, shaking his head. "You always talk like a poet. And you always pretend not to understand," she teased. They shared a quiet smile. But deep inside, Rylan felt something else. A pull, like gravity, calling him somewhere distant. "Do you feel that?" he asked. Lyra nodded. "The core of the galaxy, it's calling to us. What's there? Something old. Something watching. Maybe it's what created the Morphians. Maybe it's what's left of them." Rylan turned toward the ship's console. "Then that's where we go." The ship responded to his thoughts, and no buttons, no switches, just will. The engines roared softly, glowing with the same golden hue as their eyes. The stars began to stretch, folding into streaks of light as they entered the current of hyperspace. As they traveled, Rylan reached for her hand. "You ever think about what comes after?" Lyra looked at him curiously. "After what?" "All this. The running, the fighting, the surviving." She squeezed his hand gently. "After this, we live." Rylan smiled. "Sounds simple." "Sometimes simple is enough," she said. Time lost meaning as they crossed light years and minutes. When they finally dropped out of hyperspace, they stood before it. The galactic core. A swirling storm of stars and energy spinning around a massive black sphere that pulsed with light. It was beautiful and alive. Lyra's eyes widened. "This is where it began." Rylan stepped closer to the glass. "You mean your people?" She shook her head. "No, all life. Every world, every being. This is the heart of creation." The black sphere flickered. A deep, low vibration filled the ship. A voice without words. A thought without sound. It spoke to them both at once. "Children of light, you are bound by choice. What will you create?" Lyra trembled. "It's offering us its power." Rylan's pulse quickened. "Why us?" "Because you are both human and Morphian. Flesh and energy. War and peace. You carry balance." Lyra looked at Rylan, eyes shimmering. It's giving us the chance to start over. Rylan stared into the light. Then let's do it right this time. They stepped forward together, light surrounding them, wrapping around their bodies like golden fire. Their ship melted away, absorbed into the storm. Pain struck first, then peace. Heat, then silence. And when it was over, there was no ship, no space, no sound. Only them. Rylan looked down at his hands, made of light now, pure and endless. Lyra floated beside him, her form glowing like a living star. She smiled.
You see now?
We're not dying. We're changing again, Rylan took her hand. So this is what it means to awaken. No, she whispered. This is what it means to begin. The core pulsed once more, then released them. Light rippled through the galaxy, touching dead worlds and broken moons. Grass grew on dry planets. Frozen oceans melted. Stars long gone were reborn in flashes of gold. Every corner of the galaxy felt it. A gentle warmth, a whisper of hope. In that moment, every living being looked to the stars and felt the same thing. Something new had risen. They called it the dawn. But for Rylan and Lyra, it was simply home. They watched from beyond the veil, no longer flesh, no longer bound by fear. They were energy, memory, and will, the first of a new kind. 2 hearts, 1 light. Rylan looked at her, smiling. Guess we really did become something new. Lyra laughed softly, her voice echoing like music through creation. Not gods. Just 2 souls who refused to give up. Together they drifted into the stars and no longer hunted, no longer human, no longer alone. And the universe began again.